Hello guys. So now in this video, I'll be explaining or I'll be teaching you. I love debugs, né? And also I love a clean code, more structured that can actually help us to do most of the things. Right. So what I want us to do, what I'll talk about today, are classes, methods, yeah, and how do we combine them, all that. So I want us now to start. Yeah, now for explaining what is a class. Sorry. So when you talk about a class is like a blueprint, you know. Um, to explain it further, it's like a house plan. So a house plan, if you've seen a house plan, one where bedroom here, toilet here, and the rest. So it's like a house plan. So the actual house plan built from the plan is equals to the object. Okay, so the actual house built from the plan is called what? An object. So we have a class, which is the house plan, and now the object, it is the actual house that is built from the plan. So you have a plan of building a two-house bedroom. Now the object is a built house of two, right? Two bedrooms. So for instance, if now we are building a student system, right? We would need a blueprint, right? So a blueprint is a class. Okay. So we will talk about them. This is a class that we did talk about, right? So a class, a student. For instance, when you talk about a class, again, in a more generic example, a class, if you say a student is a class. So I just want to talk about another class here. Let's create let's create a student class. Right, so a student class, we'll just make this class to be public. This is how I like to start, and say student. Okay, so what does a student have? A student have a full name, a student has an age, a student has a course, a student has grade, a student has student number. So for short, we will just be creating what we call those labels. For the example, create properties, right? Those are the attributes that we know, the properties that we want from the student. So the first one, let us make the first one to be, we talked about declaration, full name of a student. And now the second name will be age, yes. And the last one will be the course, public string and course. So we were still still using sorry about this. So still using console application, right? So yeah. So now this is a class, and a class has properties. So what are the properties of a student? Is that there are many. So we just choose three, F name and that, right? So what we actually talking about is that every student who's going to use this app must have this. Every student looking at WUSU, remember when you were registering, looking at University of Forte and other institution, those were the properties. They say, give us your ID number, all those fields that they were required from you, whereas those were that. So the class for student, if you want all the student, we just go to class student, pull out everyone who is there in a clean database. So that is a class. So now there's one thing again that we have to talk about, which is an object. So an object is a real thing created from a class, right? So what is an object? Object that we need to think of is that we talk about initialization, put it like this, right? So this one, the blue, is an object of the class. Remember, this is the plan of the house. Now this is the house, right? So check the cases there. The student has a small letter s, right? The student has a small letter s. Okay, so a class is the student template, and the object is the student. Did you get my point? So just try to differentiate. Class is equal to the student template. Object is equivalent to the actual student. I think we did explain it further there. So what we can do now, what we do that I love basically most to do here, I would like to take this part, right, and put it or make it the first. Right, so our main program, I like to put all my classes on top, all my methods on top before the program. So this is where we'll run everything on top, right? Because we're going down. So I just want to meet this program down, avoid scrolling back up, right? So what we do now is, since we have created now the student, so the question is, who is the student? We don't have the data. We have created the properties, but we don't have the data. So what we can do in this scenario, I think now we can create one example to say student property. I need what? Full name, and this person will be KG. This is where I'm now declaring, or rather entering, new age of the student. And the course, I'll just choose computer science. Yes, that is one. Yes. Okay, so now this one, after doing that, now we can print. I'll show you how we're going to print. So remember, when we're printing now in console application, we're going to be doing console write line dot. I just don't want to print that message. What we can do here to say, call the object and print the full name of the object. So now it's going to print what? KG, right? Because the only student that is available within our database is a student, right? So now I printed KG. And the question now arises that, what if we have more than one student, right? What if we have more than one student? What are we going to do about that? Are we going to keep on initializing? Yes, for instance, if I can put one here, put one here, put one, copy this whole thing. No, sorry, let's copy this part alone, put it here, and I'm gonna call this second student, here also two here, and also gonna put a two here, and here we're gonna press a tab. Yes, so that's how it's going to be. So now if I print now student 2, it will give me KG still, right? But let's just change here and call it Amahle. Let's see what it's gonna give us. It's gonna give us Amahle because I printed the full name of the second student, right? I hope that is much precise, right? Now, perfect. Remember, now we're talking about what is a class, what is an object. An object, this is the student. So, right. So now this is what we talked about. The most important line here, initialization. That is where now we make it's part of building. Let us build now. We're building the actual house. So now I want us now to talk about methods. You understood what is a class and how they work in that regard. So now, what is a method? A method is an action. A method is an action, right? So what we want to do, I just want you to put in mind, a method is an action. So a class is equivalent to what it has, and the method is about what it does. So the class, what it has a plan of how to build the house. Then now the method is to what it does, right? So for instance, now the student has a name, has an age, has a course. So now the student does print, or rather display, the details. The student register, the student calculate marks, the student deregisters. So all those X, the student can see their marks, right? See the marks where the student is equals to 1, right? Okay, so that's what we're trying by all means to talk about, right? So what we want to do, we want to explain a method. This one is a method that helps us to output to the console. Is the main method that has to be there, right? But now we want our own method. So, okay, what is our own method and how can we be able to do it? So since we have all this information here, what we can do now, please allow me to delete this and say a method is within classes, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about a method which will also allow me to do, let's just display details. Okay, yes, so now we're going to be, yeah, so I'll show you two ways for this format so that it does not confuse us. Console, dot write line, dot just say student, let's just say name. Yeah, so these two ways are the same. So here's when you concatenate inside dollar sign outside, and you put the name here and the student name put it here. So please like capture all this because you'll be using them in what do you call, and when you're building more apps for that. Right. So no problem. So now, but this forces me now to talk about this part. Not all methods will have this. So the way we write methods, we explain first what is a method, different types of methods, and so that we can be able to understand more further. So I'll talk more about what is methods and how we can be able to differentiate between different methods. How do I know that this method uh, is applicable for me? Right. So now again, we talked that a method is just a block of code which only runs when it's called. If I have a method of now whenever my results are uploaded on my student portal, can they just be emailed to me? That is a method. It can only be triggered by time. It can only be triggered by another action, right? So in a method, you can pass data that we know or as parameters, right? So it means that if we have methods that we can pass data, but now our method here, it does not have data. Does it have data? It does not even have a data, right? So it means that any method that has a void inside is parameterless. So we have methods that does not take any inputs from it. It's just void, it's just displaying methods. All right, meaning that it's just been triggered. When you call it, you just say come, right? Can you get in class? Say KG, come here. I don't ask any question. When you call me, I just do what you told me to do. KG, come and print this paper for me. Then I print the paper for you. But now, what about those methods now that have data type? So a void is a data type, right? Mean that I don't need anything towards my parameters, right? So I'm parameterless. And buzunto. Yeah, I hope I said that right. And buzwanto. Akibujichiselo in that part, right? So another part, we talk about methods that want something before it can execute, right? If you want a method that now calculates your age using your ID number, that method would want to identify, but this person that I'm receiving, what am I going to do? Right? If I have sanitary towels right here, and I say I have a method that calls all females, right? So remember, the method is calling all females, which is going to be a string. I'm calling all the females to say, please come this side. But when I see that there's a male, then I just take it out, right? So calling everyone, but I only want females, right? So mean that you need to refactor inside to avoid this one so that you can go this one, right? Call, but who are you calling, right? Yeah, so that is methods that now have data type like string, double, and integer, character, and others. Right? So I just wanted to talk about that, about methods that now are not void. Okay. So now this method, if you can call it this one, the void method here, we would need to initialize again, and student can just call one student. Let's just initialize full name, John Doe, And now remember, we need to print, right? Student display details, right? Perfect. So what you can do here, if you could check here, we're not using any console write line statements, because now this method now, it is not assigning any variable, it is just printing. So the main purpose of this method is what? Display. So your action should align with the name of your method, right? So it is display, but inside you're not displaying, you're just initializing. So forget about that. So now display details. What details? This is the detail. Now come here. When you run this, there is no console. There's no need for you to write again the console, right? When you run this method, it will just say John Doe. Student name John Doe, right? Picture it is someone who just logged in. Log in. Hi, welcome back. How do I log to this platform? Okay, thank you. So now we talked about the method void, and one thing that I want us to talk about is the method. Again, this method, right? We can talk about this method whereby I would want us to reposition. Not sure if you understand me there. I want us to reposition here. Let's do this. Can we try to put this method here? Right? Let's see, will it want us to do it? So basically what I'm trying to do here, I just wanted to have, okay, we can put it back. We can put it back because we already have a class here. Let us make this method to be like to allow parameters, right? So what we can do here, a method that allow parameters, we can just say full name. Now you see, now we have passed the method. Now it's going to go to this part, right? So the void method also, we made it not parameterless because it now is taking a string. But look at here, it crashes because there is no argument. So if your method has parameters, you must always give it what? Arguments. Remember, you're calling people, but they don't know who you're calling. Guys, come here, right? But now you wanted females, so you need to specify that, no, I mean females, right? Get it? So, right, now let's see if it's going to print the information that we want. Same thing, student name John Doe. So you have methods that allows you to pass input and a method that's just parameterless, right? Okay, but then what happens when we have multiple inputs from a method? Like for instance here, if you can put let's put age. What happens when we put the method that wants age? Mean that here we can just put what? Another method and put age, right? Yeah, but then now we need to refactor. Let's just refactor by saying we can do this. Sorry, will crash. You are, I'm gonna teach you something. Right. Okay, so now let us put it here and initialize age, student age 20. Okay, so now our method now accept two functions, right? Two parameters. We call them multiple parameters. Okay, so you can have as many as you want. So now it allows full name and an age. So student name, full name, you are that. So we're going to take the full name and the age. So, but now why does it crash here? So if you call two people, but only one person came, it means now you're not satisfied because you wanted two. So the order or the manner in which you are naming your parameters should be the manner in which you are supplying or rather giving your arguments, right? So let us also in here put the student age. Perfect. So that's how we actually do it. Now let's try to print that and see what we're going to have. John, you are 20, right? 20 years old. So now I believe now this is more further that we could even explain. So we're going to explain different types of method. We can even block it here. We have the moment that I would say let us change everything then. Let us put it like this. Change this part to be the course. We're not displaying. You can just say details here and string here, and here we're gonna have course. No problem. So now let's start here. This method must return something, right? Let's just return what? Return full name. Remember now we are not printing, right? In this method, remember now we have a string. So every method that has a data type rather than a void, you must have that keyword return. You must always return. If you don't return, it will always crash out, right? So you must always return a value for a method that has any data type except the void data type. Perfect. So now we are still displaying the same thing, but now what we want to now to display, it will force us to do what in this instant, to not even let's come here. It will force us, how do we now print in this regard? Because now we have a course, we can say information here, and here we have a course to clear our errors. So how do we now print? Can we try to run this and see if it will print? If it doesn't print, yeah, so it printed nothing because we did not call the method to print, right? Here we just returned. So this method just returned these values, right? But then how does it even print them? Okay, so what we can do now is that method is going to return. So even though the code is quite not good, but just wanted to explain this part. So this is how we run it. So we can just block out this. So console student detail, full name, and this part. So let's just run all this information and see. So it printed John Doe, course is information, right? No problem. So most of the time you'll be getting all this information from database. You'll be getting the select case. You'll be getting the classes from different part, right? From that class, you need the connection string and all those sort of information. So just wanted to explain how do we call classes that have multiple parameters, and yeah, okay. So I think now we can talk about I'm trying to filter out by information that we need. There's certain information that we might not even need, that we'll just learn along the way when your software crashes. It's possible though. Okay, so this one I won't even talk. I wanted to talk about a default parameters, right? Which I don't want to talk about. Okay, now, but let me just talk about it now. So when you talk about a default, now let me just do this. Public string and password. So this is where we talk about new students. So every new student that gets registered to our system, when they want to use Moodle, we give them an automated password, right? Until they change that. So let's just write a method, string password. But now what we want to do is want to give it this part. Want to just initialize it. This is called a default. So a default, a parameter with a default value sometimes is called an optional parameter, right? Optional. It's just optional, right? So what we do here, we can just give it a good name to say get password. So every student that registers, we're going to give them their password, right? We're going to return password. And now here, we're going to print the same thing here. So here, let's just say, now because we're calling a method now, we're going to call student get password. And even if you don't put anything there, right? I want to show you still. So student password is equals to this, right? So now what we can do here, we can, let's see, from this part, there is no argument given to the corresponding course. Okay, so we need to change this. So get password, I think we've declared it wrong. Yeah, so let's just put an extra one here. So this one is going to print full name plus course and the password by default. Now you need to, in the backend, when you're going to be doing some backend there, you need to say if a user now tries to log in for the first time and their password, or rather if password is equals to 1234, allow the user to change the password, right? Yeah, just to rechange your password so that they, what is my password? What is my password? Go, just try to log in. The system will know that you're new because your password is 1234. Nobody will have to log in with 1234. By default, if you have 1234, you have to change your password, right? I hope that is a good example and to everyone, right? We talked about returning values, right? Now we can, I think I can just brief you about just one thing. Now here, let's just talk about an int method, right? Yeah, so we can say, let's say sum. Okay, good part there. So if you can talk about sum, I can just say make it not parameter and just give it 5 plus 5, right? So 5 plus 5 here, and because I know the values, I'll just say 5 plus 5 is equals to, so to not complicate this, let's just write a new one here. And so call this method. After calling this method, let's just call the method sum. We're not even giving it anything, but we can put the message here to say 5 plus 5 is equals to, right? Now let's see. So you see now it's saying student name, course number. So 5 plus 5 is equals to nothing, right? So now let's see what is the problem that we got now. Okay, so now here I have, let's see, here it's fine, 5 plus 5 is supposed to give me 10. So let's see now if you could change this and move this one, which there's no problem with it. Yes, C, and we want to C. So now the problem that was that we used the comma, right? Because we talked about, when we talk about concatenation, we use the plus sign. So 5 plus 5 is equals to 10. So you're going to have a method that now returns the age of the user. So a lot of people like to ask the user to enter the age, so to enter the gender, but then you ask them to enter the ID number. So forgetting that you can retrieve the ID, the gender, the age from the user, right? Okay, so yeah, I think you can also detect if a person is not from South Africa, yes, or something like that. But we'll see how we'll do research together about that information. Okay, So I think the other one that we can talk about is what? Um, I think that what we talk about, there was a part called the a method overloading. I'm not sure if you understand me. So a lot of people, most of the time, they have I'm not sure how to put this, but um, they name methods of different data types the same. So let me show you something here. Let's have a method here, and sure we're talking about method overloading, right? So let's call it give it integer and call it plus method, right? And now we're gonna call it int x int y, right? So now remember, you need to return here what? Return x plus y. Perfect. Now we're gonna use the same method but with the different data type. With a different data type, which is double. So this is called method overloading. Okay, let's see now the error here. The type student already defined a member called plus method. You see this error? A member plus method does not access instant data and can be marked static. Okay, let's see. Still, so the method name still exists. That is what you call. So instead of defining two methods that should do the same thing, what we do here is best to not is actually overload the one, just overload one method instead of just having two methods that calculates the numeric the whole numbers, the other one. So if you have this name, do not reuse the name for simple terms, I believe. Okay, so I hope that is explaining a method overloading. Okay, so I think now into I'm not sure, we will explain what is known as a constructor. I believe I did explain, but not entirely touched base on it. Okay, so what is a constructor? Okay, let's explain using this part. Delete this guy. So a constructor helps create an object with values immediately, right? Okay, so what we do now here, so instead of initializing like this, right? Instead of initializing like this, we do this. We copy this, put it here, comma, put it here, comma, and now, and the password, because we have a default password, we can just put it like this, right? So now let's see, what is the error now? So student does not contain a constructor that takes 3 arguments. Okay, remove this one. Are we sure that it doesn't? 1, 2, 3. So now the main thing is, how do we now define a constructor? Okay, so we go to a class. This is the class. We say public what? Student, right? Public student. From a student, one full name and the course. So this full name, full name, full name. So this is this full name, right? The full name is the one that we have here. This is the one, is the full name within the student. So this is the constructor. Now let's see if our error got out. Okay, so now, so this is the constructor. When we are initializing, we are passing out these arguments into here, right? So that is the constructor. Constructor is reusing the class name as a method here. So if you see the class name as a method inside, that thing is called a constructor, right? It avoids initializing that way that we did. So instead of initializing like that, yeah. But remember, this is just going to be for once of application. So sometimes you would need not to have default values. You'll have different sort of students, right? So meaning that you have to manage it in another way. Okay. So So what we had then was a default, a non-default constructor. So now, when you talk about a non-default constructor, it is parameterless, meaning that would remove all this. Let's do this public. We repeat the same thing, but we don't give the parameters here. So instead, we can just say console right line default constructor is called, or the student is created. Student created. So we use this one when there are no values to be passed, right? So when there are no values to be passed. So we use it when we have our case here. So this one, you use it when you have a non-default constructor, right? This one goes with that constructor that has two, that accept parameters. But then now this one that does not take here, want to make parameterless here, call it student one. And what we have now here, we're gonna say student one dot full name, John, student name, and course computer science, right? So how are we gonna print? We're gonna be doing like that. So that one was called what? A parameterized constructor, and a constructor that accept values, right? So okay. So I think we've just explained that. Yeah, yeah, I think that is much better because we did explain this process of how we're gonna print out these values, right? We did so, but then for purposes, let's just put one here, one here, one here, one here, one, and let's just run it. So student created. So the student now has been created, and the student is Jane 2 doing computer science, password 1, 2, 3, 4, and 10 plus 10, 5 plus 5 is 10. Yeah, so I just wanted to thank you for that, and I hope it was understandable. Again, I would only help if you understand something. That is where I would definitely understand. But now I think I wanted to show you something, but you can always do it. Let us change this sum and allow it to take at least input so that see how it's going to be working. Instead of default values, A plus B. So going back to our program, what are we going to be having here? We're going to say int what? Results. So the result is whereby we store, right, from student one, and we call the method sum, and we give it what? We give it 5 plus 5. We give it 5, 5, right? So here, meaning that we can no longer, or rather we no longer use this as a part, but we just use the variable name result. I think that is more cleaner than the first one. So you take the methods of returned value, you put it into the variable name, and now you display the variable name, right? So let us run this section. Yeah, so now 10 plus 10 is still 10. You see, so that's how we created that. So I just want us to play around methods. This is most important with where we are going, right? So please, if you have any question, please feel free to ask on the comment section, and I'll just say, can you please re-explain methods and stuff, which will show that you are listening, I believe. So thank you so much, and I believe we'll meet into the next video whereby we'll be dealing with forms, right? I didn't want to explain classes in more into sense, but now because I wanted to talk about access modifiers, properties, inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, interface, those ones who do explain as we are now developing the program. But for basic parts, we just explain class and the main important things of class, and also a class constructor, right? Yeah. So thank you so much, guys. I think we'll meet into the third video. We'll be now going hands into forms. So thank you.